Every family has one thing no one talks about: a betrayal, a lie, a secret agreement to pretend it never happened. In this episode, Robert shares powerful real life stories of hidden pain, unspoken shame, and how emotional programs are passed down through the generations. And together we're going to explore how families unconsciously mirror and mimic the very patterns they swore they'd never repeat, whether it was addiction, abuse, abandonment, or simply the quiet rule to never speak of it again. These secrets don't disappear, they drive our choices, they become the unspoken rules that we live by. I'm Crystal Dirksen, co-host of the Robert Jean Experience, and I'm here with your host, Robert Jean. He is a behavioral engineer, neuroplastician, drug rehab consultant, and the creator of Utactics and Faster EFT. In this episode, we are joined by a special guest, China, who opens up about her personal story and how Utactics and Faster EFT changed her life. All right, Robert.
Wow, this is a big topic. Of course, the secrets that we don't want to talk about. As a matter of fact, the secrets we don't even remember or want to remember. It's like we experience life. And by the way, when you come into this world, you come in as a little baby. You know nothing. You're just a blank slate ready to be educated on how the world is. And depending on the atmosphere and the dynamics of the world in which you come from, they start impacting you, the child. And of course, inside of us, we have what you call the learning machine, the survival machine. And so, depending on, the circumstances of your birth, you could be the first one or the last one or the middle one. Each of these scenarios have different plays, different environments, different impacts, So, I see that, because I have a belief, and I believe that, first of all, you're not broken, you're not screwed up. You're just doing what you know how to do based on what you've experienced and learned from your jungle, that's your family, or wilderness, or whatever you want to call that.
Did you call it a jungle?
A jungle, yeah. Well, it could be like a lot of crazy people swinging from limb to limb,
Yep.
You never know. We come from our own environments. And of course, our environments impact us, train us, teach us how to survive and be a good member. Some they'll be a great follower of the group. They will side with mom, they'll side with dad, they'll side with nobody. They'll fight the group or go along with the group, or they'll pick up their own stuff. And so from these experiences, we have to survive in the world. So I always say that, you're not broken, you're not screwed up, you just learn how to act the way you do. And be honest with you, personalities are created by experiences. By experiences. Your experiences impact you. Like if you were say, if I'll use Crystal, for example. Crystal was the golden child, the one that they wanted to have a baby, and they tried and they tried and they tried, and finally Crystal was born, and she's the only one, the first grandchild, doted, and they always said, "Oh, you're so beautiful, you're all these wonderful things about you." Well, Crystal's going to grow up in a different world if she was the last child, and your mother was tired, and you were born, you look just like your daddy, and she hates your daddy, or the guy who raped her, or the guy who beat her. All right? And they said, "I can't stand this child. I wish I never had this child." And then the older siblings picked on you and bullied you, and rolled you up in a carpet and threw you in the trunk of a car. You're going to have a different world. So our worlds are created by exposure. Of course, I'm the oldest, and of course, my mother ran away from home, got pregnant, came back, gave birth to me, single woman, pregnant, the shame, grandma's a Christian, the shame and all this stuff. I'm a bastard child at the time. So I have a different environment than the last one, And of course, from our exposures, it impacts us. I do believe that I was lucky in a sense, because, when I was born, I had a grandmother. She was 34 years old when I was born, and grandma actually took care of me. Mom would live her, so she'd wake up, she'd baby me, because she's a 15-year-old baby having a child, Right. And grandma always wanted me, but mom wouldn't let her have me. And so by the time my mother was 19, she had 4 kids, So it's a total different world than somebody else who was a single child. Now, by the way, I do feel sorry for the single children in a lot of ways because they're the lonely one. They're the one everything dumped on them. It's a different story. But
Right.
the things is, we have crazy people in our lives.
So tell us a little bit more about that, about the family line. Like, so from all the years of experience of working with people, you've seen the oldest child, you've seen what happens to the middle child and to the
Mhm.
youngest. What's the difference?
Well, usually, there's variances. Usually, the oldest one is the practice on. They're usually the hardest on, and the middle child doesn't exist. It's the overlooked child. It's the one in the quiet, or the sometimes you say the oldest child, and then they have the second child, and the oldest one hated the idea that this child was born. It took away their glory. They're now no longer important, and then the older child picks on this one, and so now she's the quiet one, she's the shy one, whatever it is. And then, of course, the youngest one oftentimes are the ones that's being picked on. They're the one that's not fast enough to keep up with them. So they think I'm not good enough, not smart enough, not fast enough. They're the comedians, they're the jokesters, or they're the spoiled brats. There's so many stories to this and many variances everywhere, but they're common themes. They're common themes. And again, depending on the emotional environment and the parents, all of them could be jacked up, have
Right.
a problem.
Right. So
And
why
of
do you feel
course,
sorry? Why do you feel sorry for the youngest or for the only child?
I just saying that to be kind of funny, but
Oh,
it,
okay.
see, you got the single child. They're the one that goes to school with a briefcase instead of a lunchbox. They're the one hanging around all the adults and they don't really have time, don't get to spend time with kids. They're the one all by themselves. So that's a common story. Now, by the way, you could be a single child by being the oldest one and the next child is 10 years younger. Or you could
Sure.
be the youngest child and no one's there but you. So there's a lot of variances here.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the crazy thing is that, I always say that the cause of all problems starts at birth. And if you hadn't been born, you wouldn't have any problems. But the deal is, your parents or whoever raised you had emotional issues. They had their insecurities, they had their hurts, they had their own abuses and harms. And so, guess what they're going to do? They're going to share it with this child in their life. So, their emotional system will start impacting this child. Of course, the child's innocent, but the child is a learning machine and they're going to operate within that craziness. And so from that craziness, they're going to start building an identity and a value and who I am and how am I to act. And then they're going to start, after they, go to school, grow up, they're going to find their people. And what I mean their people is what they're familiar with. If they were used and abused, they will either be an user or an abuser, and or they'll find someone to use and abuse them. These are
Mm,
systems.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, before we get to the closet and all the skeletons in the closet and the family secrets, we have new listeners, and for our new listeners that have no idea what trauma is, and maybe we haven't defined it for them, let's define what trauma is. And also for the new listeners that are hearing you talk about programming, they might be thinking, I don't know what programming is. Is it like a
Right.
computer program? So let's define some of these things.
Well, first of all, a trauma. Now, guys, this is outside of the people who don't know how to change traumas. I do. All right. So if they can't change traumas, they help you live with it, deal with you, medicate you, don't listen to them. I mean, you got to ask your psychologist, okay, first, and your mother and anybody, right? So, but how I see traumas, now you have to understand, I operate from the mind's understanding. So the mind understanding is neutral. So if you were born in an environment and it's normal to be angry and pissed off and hurt and harmed, to that child, that's normal. That's not abnormal. I remember going to a friend's house and sitting there to eat dinner, and they all reached around and held hands and prayed. I thought, this is a weird group. It's scary because it wasn't part of my world. And so I speak from neutrality. So that means everything is neutral and we give the meaning to everything. So a trauma is something that impacts you emotionally, and it impacts your decisions, and it impacts your identity and value. That means a positive experience, a happy birthday, a great birthday party impacts you to where you like birthday parties and you'd like to have more. Negative, seemingly negative. Remember, to the brain, neither one of them are negative or positive, but to our logic, we say it's negative. So a child who will fall down and knock her front teeth out and feeling like she's ugly and no one loves her is a negative trauma to our consciousness. All right. Now that's going to impact her decisions about herself. Now you can take that to the biggest, worst stuff: rapes, beatings, murders, physical trauma, anything is, it's still in education. I work with the toughest people, and that's in drug rehabs. And these guys are in there because of big traumas. They were the scapegoat of the family. They've been beaten, abused. They went to war. They saw people killed. They have all kinds of horrible things. But to the brain, none of it's bad. And what happens is, it's not what happened to you. You have to understand, it's not what happened to you as a child. It's not what happened to you as an adult, but rather how your brain grabbed information and internalized it. So the event didn't traumatize you, but your translation interpretation did. And your brain's going to use this information to make decisions, to stay alive, to stay safe, to operate. So that's how the brain's neutral system. None of it's bad, none of it's good, but consciously, it's horrible. We feel like we're going to die. We feel like somebody's going to get us from behind. We feel like someone's going to rape us, or abuse us, or traumatize us, beat us up, kill us, whatever your experience is. So that's trauma. Now, all of it, and here's a nice thing about memories, all of it is adjustable and changeable. I've worked with the worst traumas you could ever imagine, from rapes to beatings to murders and witnessing murders and death. You name it, I've worked with it all. And when we're done, they know it happened, but it doesn't mean much.
Okay, so for those people that are listening and they've already been told this is their prescription, this is their lot in life, and now this will be how they will live the rest of their life. And they
Right.
believe it. And now
And
they're
it's,
listening to you.
yeah,
And now
yeah,
they have to rewind because they're thinking, okay, what did he just say?
yeah.
So
Well,
talk to
yeah.
those people.
Well, you have to understand too. I mean, when you had a negative experience, a not so happy one, right? And when you think about it, it becomes real right now. Now, the reason is I call that a hypnotic trance, a state of mind, because your brain recalls and regenerates and recreates right now. Logically, it's not true now. It's just memories and it makes it feel real. Even though I have it 10 years, 5 years, or 100 years ago, your brain has this capacity to bring it up to reality now. And so and again, remember, if you go to someone who doesn't know how to change the cause of all problems, the cause of all problems is memory and how we internalize the world. If they can't change the cause, you're going to be chasing rabbits, rainbows, and drugs and therapies over and over again. I remember this lady came to my office, and it's a standard story. She said, "You're my 14th therapist." I said, "Well, 15's your lucky number." And I said, "What was it you've been telling all these therapists?" And guess what? I wrote every one of those memories down. And we got done with that 2 hour session. She couldn't make them bother her. It wasn't real anymore. She logically knows it happened, but the sensations, the emotions, and the internalizations has drifted away and has been updated. So, and of course, I always say all therapies lead to mind because mind works. They try. I mean, how many times I've had people say, "I tried thousands of therapies, nothing worked, but this did." And the reason why it works is because it's direct. This is the cause, which is memories and how you internalize the world. You update those memories, you change your world. Therefore, change your mind, change your life, change your memories, you change your world internally, and you see the world differently.
Mhm. Yes. So then our brain is neuroplastic,
Yeah,
plastic.
plastic.
What is
Yeah,
it? Plastic.
adjustable.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And so can you explain the concept of that? Like what are you doing to make the adjustments in the brain? What,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
just
Well,
explain that.
Well, I mean, there's the operating system is your limbic operating system. So it means it encodes the world basically five ways: visually, auditorily, kinesthetically, taste, and smell. That's how it is organized. Of course, you got the amygdala, actually two of them, not one. And what the I call these the girls who drink a lot of coffee, or the guys. So they're twin sisters, and their whole goal is to bring in information, organize it, and bring up information. Like if I say I have a dog, and of course my dog's a Great Dane, your brain starts looking, and I say it's a black Great Dane, and then you see a black Great Dane, and I say it's got white tips on the ears, white tip on its nose, a star on her chest, and a white tip on her tail, and all of a sudden your brain, your amygdala is now creating this idea. That's how it works. Now, also, it's my story, and it's storing it inside your brain somewhere. That's how it does any experience, bad, good, and the ugly. And so it just operates for us. And so when we start to utilize and understand how to drive our brain, so the sad thing is, you can drive your car better than you can drive your brain. That's the sad part. And of
Mm,
course, you go to people who are supposed to know how that part works, and they don't know either. That's why they're still on drugs and still in therapy, right?
mhm.
All right.
Yes.
So the key really is knowing how to make the adjustments, and it's really incredibly simple. I'm telling you, it's so simple. I've taken a phone app and collapse a rape memory in 12 minutes, and then they go back. They can't bring it back
Hmm.
because the
Right.
memories are malleable. But you got to be smarter and knowing how the mechanics of the mind works. I do.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so if we're going to therapists or counselors, every time you talk about that, I think about my first counselor. We were struggling in our first year of marriage, big time. And this was the first counselor that I saw. And what she did was she knew I was angry. I had a lot of rage in me. And she said, go to the thrift store and buy a box of dishes and start smashing them. And I thought, wow, that's so ridiculous. I don't think I can get anything out of that. So I didn't go and do it because I knew that breaking plates, I just knew that breaking plates wasn't enough for me.
Yeah. It's, like I do see the insanity of it. But by the way, every therapy could work. It could if it's done internally correctly. There is a process, the bad good collapse, which I share about in my trainings. But, primal scream, I mean, who came up with this idea?
Right.
Screaming at furniture. But, they say, oh, I feel much better. I said, yeah, you're practicing your screaming ability. Unless you change memories, primal scream, rebirthing therapies. Like this woman came into my office, and I get some really interesting problems that people come in, and of course I asked a certain question, and she starts crying profusely, like loud, and I'm in a hotel. The walls are paper thin, and I go, oh shit. So I start tapping on her head. I go, what's wrong with you? It's okay. Good job. Get it all out. And then I started pull her out and said, hey, where'd you get those shoes? Now, in order to change a memory, this is so simple. In order to change a memory, you got to identify the memory and you have to interject into the memory. You have to add something. You got to dissipate something and add something. I call that bad good collapse. If you do it enough, you completely destroy and change and update a memory. And so the key is the brain is malleable, and it's simple. Like here's a simple one. So I just meet China, and China's a nice girl, and I really had a good moment with her. We had a good conversation, and I left, and I go to Crystal, and I say, I met this girl. She's really nice. She has a really kind heart. She's got some kids and all this stuff, and Crystal eyes get really big, and you can look steam coming out of her ears. Crystal, no, China. I hate China. And then she starts raging. And here it is. I'm looking at China in my mind and look at this crazy woman screaming. And she's saying, China, you know what she does? I got in the elevator and she farted. People came in. She blamed me. And I was so shamed and humiliated. So now here it is. I have a good experience. So I have a positive memory with China. But now you've introduced ideas, concepts that will change my perception of China. That's how memories are changed. Now that's definitely an extreme one, and that's how it works. It's the brain is very malleable. Memories are very adjustable. You can take a bad memory and make it worse. You can take a good memory and turn it to bad. And if you're really good, you take a bad memory and you make it gold, make it good. And so that's what I do. So that's the brain is easy to use when you understand the rules and the mechanics of it. And so that's what I figured out, how to do it, how to do it fast.
Yeah, and you do a good job of it. So, one of the hardest pills to swallow is that sometimes we become the very thing that we didn't want to become, and that's in these
Mhm.
family systems. So, maybe we swore that we would never be like our parent, or
Yeah.
maybe we would never marry someone like our dad, okay? But there we go. We start we follow the family system and we don't mean to. We don't want to, but we recreate the very pain that we swore we would never do. Why
Right.
do we do this?
Well, it's very simple. It's called emotional education. And how many times I could have gotten kicked, I said, "You're just like your mother." And they get so angry. And of course, why would you be so angry? And the bizarre thing is, your mother trained you to be like her by how she impacted you, what she did to you. And guess where those go? Right here in your mind. So I don't want to be like my mother, but my head is full of mother memories. So now you have a battle. Consciously, you don't like it, but unconsciously, you have all those resources. And that's where the battle is. And so, and if you don't know how to change what's inside, you'll always have this battle. Now, I do see the flip flop of this, like, and it doesn't, like, for example, they say, well, Crystal, you're going to marry someone like your father, and China's going to marry someone like her father. But that's not necessarily true. Usually you'll find, marry, or date someone who had the most negative impact in your life, had the most intensity in your life. That means you would or you could do both. I mean, there's a flip flop. You can do. It's like this one woman said, "Hell, I got my mom, my dad, and my brother I hate all in one pair of shoes," because our brain picks what we're familiar with. And even though he said, "Let your heart guide you," it did. It found the person that you hated when you grew up because this is the system of thinking. This is the environment in which we grew up in. So we have a tendency to replicate it. They said, well, I come from a dysfunctional family. I said, well, first of all, there's no such thing as a dysfunctional family, a family that functions. It functions so well, you leave that one and find another one just like it. And if you're really good, you find a worse one because you're compounding your skills.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh. So
Now,
don't I think everybody would do that. I think everybody
we
does
all
it.
do.
They change
We
their
all do.
programming.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Hmm.
Now, if you're unlucky, you had nice parents, I mean, you're going to have a boring life. I say that jokingly, but let me just say one more thing about this. Let's say I'm just using Crystal as an example. So she had a mean father. I don't know if you did, but I'm just saying if you did. Mean, controlling, manipulative, right? Now, Crystal has options. Either one, she'll be the mean one, and she'll date, marry, and find someone who's like her, which is the weak one. So she'll be the controlling one, and she'll find someone who will control them. And or she will date and marry someone like their abuser, and then she'll flip and be like that with her kids. These are emotional conditionings that we learn to survive. So I mean, so again, these are the things that we leave at home. I mean, again, these are the elephants in the room. These are the things you would never talk outside because if you did, you'd get another whipping, you know? And so these are the things, these are so unconscious. Sometimes I've heard so many people said I had a beautiful childhood. And I start working in their head. I go, God, I'm glad I didn't have yours. Because again, they're looking at, and people paint what you call the white wall. They paint the pretty picture. Now, it's okay to look at the pretty picture and don't look at the bad stuff. At least you won't go crazy. And so these are the one who's, the makeup is perfect, their hair is perfect, they wear their dress perfect, they got to act perfectly outside of the house. and they go home and then they flip and whatever.
Right. Right. And but this is like that's this we talked about this before we came on here. Like that's the social media world today. If you go on social media, you're going to
Mhm.
see what they call the highlight reels. You're going to see the positive things. No one wants to get on there and post their bad day and talk about their bad day because pretty soon you're going to you're it's negative and no one wants to listen to that.
Well, I mean, you say no one. That's not really true. There's some people are into that.
Okay.
They
All right.
really are. There are some people into. That's why they join hate groups. That's why they join fibromyalgia,
Okay.
suffering groups. You know, they join the. I mean, if you go to AA, man, you really get an earful of misery. You know.
Yeah, I
So
guess yeah, you're
there's
right.
a double-sidedness of it, you know. And there are the hate groups that you could join, and by the way, people fully justify their bad behaviors. Everyone does, you know. But yeah,
Mhm.
it is a bizarreness. And because I studied this last few years, I studied about narcissism. I knew a little bit about it, but there's different types. And by the way, my opinion about narcissism, everyone has narcissistic traits. Narcissism is basically a survival process, and anyone that is diagnosed narcissistic, very few people are diagnosed, but those who are, look at their history. They're extreme abuse, a lot of traumas. And so they put on the fake face, or they become a professional victim, or they become the victimizer. And again, some of these individuals, women and men, are very good and very charming. They could sell ice to an Eskimo. That's how charming they are. And there's a lot of dirtiness that happens. Now, again, if you raised up and your family plays the dirty pool, the bad stuff, you watch your mom do it to your sister, and they do it to your husband, does it to their wife, they do it to the kids. These are trainings to be that way. And so these are the things that we would never share, because, you get to one of these individuals who you call I say narcissistic traits. Everybody has those. I have them. You have them. We all do. But there are some people are really top shelf. I mean, they've had a lot of training, and they will never go in to the stories of their mind. They will never get close to those demons because and they got they've had the crap beat out of them for showing their weakness. So they would never show weakness, or they got a lot of sympathy by being a victim, and they'll make a cake and they'll give it to you and they say, I know it's not very good. And they do that so they get praise. Oh no, it's really good. Oh no, it's really good. That's a trait. There's all kinds of this stuff. I've personally experienced a person extremely abusive, extremely something I never I mean, I knew that stuff existed, but I started saying, oh shit, I see this everywhere now, you know?
Right. Right. It became very clear.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
program.
So when you're talking about generational trauma, you're saying that it's emotional training. It's something that we're
Yeah.
looking at
Yeah.
and we're being emotionally trained.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious about this piece because if you come from energy healing, I've come from energy healing modalities, and so have you. You know, you know the EFT world. You,
First of all, when I bought the EFT course, it said block energy. I already knew enough that it was wrong. I know it's not because I studied NLP. NLP says it's all programmings. It's inner processing. So,
yes.
so they didn't get me.
Did you get certified in EFT?
Yeah, I got. So, as a matter of fact, I'm a master EFT. I'm an EFT master. Through Sylvia Hartman,
Oh wow, look at that. Yeah.
matrix reimprinter certification.
Yes.
I,
Yeah.
and listen, I did it all. I went to the psychic fairs. I went to every possible modality, Psych K,
Mhm.
BSEP, all kinds of stuff, because I
Okay.
was on a mission to figure out what really does work.
Got it. Yes.
Hypnosis, you name it. I looked at it. I studied it. Whatever it is.
Okay, so what I wanted to get to here is generational trauma, according to the energy world, is, it could be passed down in your cellular memory. So this is what I want, this is what I'm curious about. So if it's emotional training, obviously there's something physiological that's happening in our body and it can turn on and off our DNA. Or no? What are you saying?
No, that's horseshit, in my opinion. Let me just say this. Let's say, for example, your mother was sexually abused. She can program you by her behaviors and by her languaging, impact you. Even though you are never abused, you can pick up behavioral patterns because you're a learning machine. And again, it's like they're going to say that alcoholism is a disease, it's genetic, and that's horseshit. It isn't. It is a learned coping mechanism to avoid our emotions. Matter of fact, everybody who listens to me does that. And basically, it's this: I feel uncomfortable. Therefore, I do this to escape my emotions. That's the driving force behind all behaviors, mainly addictions for sure. So you learn unconsciously. You learn unconsciously. Now let's say so you have a nice look. I mean, both of you girls have a nice look. You know what the bad thing about looking nice? That's a birth defect. You know why? You're going to get harassed by men. Other women won't like you. They'll be jealous of you. They will pick on you just because you look better than them. This is a system in the world. So
So,
so we think it's genetic. It's not genetics.
okay. So Bruce Lipton, he has like the epigenetics where he shows how our
Mhm,
environment influences
mhm,
us. And
mhm.
so that's really what you're saying.
Everything. Yeah. Now you have to understand epigenetics too. There's a research. They had these two rats. One mother was a mothering rat. They licked their pups, and the other one wasn't. And of course, when they grow up, the pups end up not being mothering, based on the mother that's not mothering, and the mothering who was mothering. But and they say, well, it's genetically passed down. But if you take one of the pups from the mother who wasn't and put it one who was mothering, and you switch it around, this pup now becomes mothering, and the other one becomes not, because we're emotionally conditioned. So and again, there are what you call the subtle cues that are we as a child learn to react and to survive. Sensory acuity, being aware of what's going on, and you will react. It's like, I don't know, you said sometimes you see this little video. I see a video on YouTube where they got the husband and then the child. And so the mother is feeding the husband with a spoon, and he shakes his head no, and she slaps him across the head. And then she's going to feed the child. You know what the child's going to do? Open his mouth, because it just witnessed something that they learned not to do.
Mhm.
This is how we learn unconsciously, inadvertently, without even knowing we learned something.
Right. So how are we supposed to become aware of what we're learning when it becomes so familiar to us?
You have to break the rules.
There we go.
You have to break the rules. And
Yes.
of course, the rules is, and of course, I attract people who are black sheep. Bah. They're the ones who are the rebellious ones. They're the ones who are looking for a way out, you
Yeah.
know, and they're rebelling against the system. And that's why they take 20 different processes trying to find some way to get free.
Hmm.
So,
Right.
but yeah, so the secret, the elephant in the room, are the behaviors that we picked up, learned, and experiences, the bad, the good, and the ugly. And then you can't take it out and share it with the world. You'll get in trouble. So then you'll create what I would call create an imposter syndrome. Outside the world, you're one way, new character, new behavior. But when you go home, you're a different person. You may have some kind of, you know, imperfection, some birth defect. All right. When you're home, you don't cover it up. But when you go out in the real world, you cover it up. But people don't know really you're just ugly as sin, right? Because you think you're ugly as sin. You're
Hmm.
ashamed of your life. You're ashamed of your family. You're ashamed of your world. And so
Hmm.
then you have this what you call the duality.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So for those family secrets, I think so far with the people that I've worked with, from families that I've talked to, I know after I graduated one of the Bible colleges that I went to, I took on a little bit of this pastoral role. And then I had some interesting family members contact me because now, you have that certain ministerial position. And that's when I started hearing of all like the things that people hide in their closets.
Right. Right.
And it's very surprising and shocking, and yet people live with it. They don't do anything about it. I mean, they'll reach out to churches, to pastors, And like that, I'm talking about Christianity because that's my background, what people
Right.
went to the pastors. But churches, they haven't, like in this area, I still know that the churches here don't have the tools. They don't know how to deal with it. And no
Mhm.
one's going to the cops when
No.
something happens.
Right. I
So
mean,
it's,
I grew up in the Christian world too, and so here's the bad thing about the Christian world. Now, I talk about religion in general. Is first of all, if the cause of all problems is bad experiences and memories, and if your system, whether it's Christian, non-Christian, or anything else, if they don't know how to change the memory, the internalization of the memory, you're still a slave to the system. And if you come into a system and you're born into a system, you're guilty and it's your fault that someone else died, you're guilty. You'll never get rid of that guilt. And so then they put the makeup on thick and they go to church and they pray to Jesus and they sing to Jesus. And on the way home, they beat their husband, they yell at their kids, and then they, like it's a weird system. Now again, this is religions, not necessarily the teachings of Jesus. There are differences, and I believe that he taught how to change memories. That's what I know he taught. But unfortunately, it's a book that's 3,000 years old, and we don't have all this stuff. It's just not there.
yeah.
But this is normal. By the way, this is normal. This is absolutely normal all across the board. Now, if you're a Christian, don't take it personal. You know, you know how it works. You're in it. I mean, it's just how it works.
Hmm. Yes. And so what happens to people who keep the family secret? I know right now in one of our families, I know there's a family secret. Everybody knows the family secret, but no one's talking about it. So
Yeah.
what happens with people who live with the family secret and because it happened to them, like they're part of it. So what
Yeah.
happens inside of their body, in their life? What are they experiencing? What happens when they stay silent?
It just replays in their life and their mind. If they never visit again, it still drives them. You have to understand it takes 1 3 second moment, 3 second, 2 second moment, and your whole view of the world will change in a negative way or a positive way.
Mm.
2 second moment. It changes how you view the world. It changes how you view yourself. So the thing is, if you never change it, it's a battle you always fight. And
Hmm.
that's not a good battle.
There we go. Yes. Yeah. And then some might say, well, that's the good fight.
Well, yeah.
So, anyway, let's go over to China.
Hey, China.
My name is China Rikamat, and I'm from Utah. I have 4 kids. I've been with my husband since we were 15 years old.
Hmm.
And I think that he's seen different version every few years of myself. So, how I got introduced to Utactics Faster EFT, I follow a girl on Instagram, and she was like posting about it, and I was one of those people. I've tried it all. I've tried ayahuasca. I've tried hypnotherapy. I've tried talk therapy. I've tried it all, and I just knew like there's got to be something more. There's got to be something more. Anyways, followed this girl, and I did a session with her, and we worked on a pretty big memory. Do you want me to share?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so I had a memory of my dad because my parents were drug addicts. They were crazies growing
Hmm.
up. Anyways, I had this memory of my dad holding a gun to my mom's head. And for whatever reason, I think we just dove in on that session and she was like cleaned it up. And I could not believe it because when I went back to remember it, it was like the brain, like I knew, like it was just different. Like the emotions around it were gone. I felt different about it. It was incredible. I was just like, holy crap. Like I know that it happened, but on this side of the brain, it's like sees it completely different. So I was just like, there's something to this. I'm gonna
Hmm.
keep doing it. So I had a couple more sessions with her, and then I just jumped into level 1 and started working on myself, started showing up for tap alongs with you. And do you want me to keep going?
Yeah. You said tap along. You did share earlier that
Yeah.
volunteered in tap
So
along. I hope you
a
checked.
tap along. So again, my background, I've tried it all. So I always had this feeling like maybe I was like abused when I was younger. Like I don't remember it, so like I don't think it happened to me, but my mom had been abused. My sister had been abused. So I'm like, I I don't know, like I don't remember being abused, but I feel this feeling of like I was abused. Anyways, I was on a tap along with you, and we started tapping along this memory that I had, this story of my sister telling me about her abuse. As I'm tapping along with you, I'm starting to remember things, and I'm like, holy crap, I was there. Like I was just a little girl laying in the bed, like beneath her when it happened, like I was there. And so we cleaned that up, and then I worked with another practitioner to clean up more of that because it was a pretty big issue.
But
But that was like incredible for me because I didn't remember that I was there. I had no idea.
Mhm.
And so, yeah. You want me to
Yeah,
just keep going?
let me share a little bit about that. Let me explain a little bit how the mind works. Um, it's kind of weird. You could have you can have witness or somebody. So your sister comes to tell you the story, right? Or you watch a
Yeah.
movie on TV.
Yeah, my
Um,
mom told me her story of her abuse, and then my sister told me her story, and so
mhm. So you're getting this information, this data, and what our brains do, it'll take information and create a story with it. As a matter of fact, when they tell the story, you actually start to feel as if you were there with them. Or even you can even feel as if you were experiencing in your mind. Now, again, guys, watch TV. You get angry at the TV and you cry with the TV, but you're not really there, but it sure felt real. So one of several things could happen. One, you internalized it because what you listened to became a part of your story. Now, one of the things I teach is that everything inside your mind is you. So if you have stories of your mother telling you a story and you internalize a story, you're giving meaning to it, you're giving emotions to it, it becomes you. Even if it never happened to you physically, mentally, it is happening and emotionally. And so then you will operate as if it were true. All right. So that's how the brain works. And that's why a lot of times I will work with people who have what you call a false memory. So this could be a false memory you created by listening to stories and you create your own. Or you may have, who knows? So that's how it works. So we worked on that one and you worked on that one. So now when you think about it, what does it mean?
when I go to it, it's crazy because like it's not even that memory. It's, a memory of my sister and I dancing and playing and we're happy, and like that's what I automatically go to first. Like
Yeah.
I don't even like I know that that was once upon a time a thing that happened, but that's not my like when I think about that memory, I go to my rewrite. Like I go to my
Right.
updated memory.
Right. Now let me those of you who are listening to me, I know this sounds kind of weird. She had a memory or an ideal of a memory. You have to understand your memories is not the real thing that happened outside you. Remember earlier, I said your brain will take stuff and internalize it. So when you visit your memory of what you watched on TV, what someone told you, or what you experienced, when you change it up here inside your head, you're not changing what happened out there. You can't change something that doesn't exist anymore. So when you update your memories, you're updating your program on how to operate and survive in the world. That's really important. So you can't change the past. You can only change how you represent things. Whatever is in your head is a program on how to do something, how to experience something, and how to repeat something. So if you like feeling miserable, don't change them. So what's some of the big things that from your working with level one? Level one, guys, you can change yourself is the title of it, which means I want to show you how to change yourself. I want you to be the driver of your own life. I want you to adjust the things inside you so that you'll be happy. Now, what we're not doing is creating alternative reality. We're not lying to ourselves. As a matter of fact, when you go back to a past memory and you feel it today, that's a lie today because you're not there. That's a lie. So I'm actually bringing you to the present moment, to what is real. Now, again, like if you want to, hold on to the misery of the past, there's a payoff. It gets bigger and it gets worse and it'll destroy you. So just remember this. When you adjust a memory, you're not changing what happened in the past. You're only changing what your brain will recycle on you. That's really important to know. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So my mom, I had a lot of memories of my mother sleeping. She was a drug addict, so she was either high or she was sleeping. And then later on in life, after my third baby, I really started to struggle with fatigue, like this just crazy fatigue. I could not, I could take all the supplements, I could eat right. It was just there. Like I just wanted to sleep. So level one, I really started diving into changing memories of mom sleeping, and that really helped my fatigue shift. And then one of the other big things that I cleaned up was my dad's affair. And I didn't know at the time how much resentment and anger I held towards him. Like I kind of knew because like it was just like sometimes he would like talk and his voice would just like send, like all these spikes, like all I could see was red. Like, oh my gosh, your voice, like why? And so I kept, being emotionally intelligent now, learning from Robert, I was like, why does he bother me so bad? So as I'm, cleaning up memories, more memories are starting to surface and I recognize and I see like, oh wow, there's like all this stuff from the past that I never dealt with that I just kind of was like, oh, nope, I love my dad, you know. And so cleaning up my dad, I will say that he's been one of my biggest healers because he's been one of my biggest triggers. Like I'm just like, ah. And so I've cleaned up lots of things with him. One of the biggest was he had an affair on my mom when I was younger. That sent my mom into uh, like a panic attack, I guess, or not a panic attack. I don't know. She basically didn't want to do anything but sleep.
Depression.
Yeah, like
Depression.
a depression. Yeah. And so I cleaned that up and, updated those memories. And it's been incredible. Also, with my parenting, my own parenting, I came from a background where, you spanked your children, you yelled at them, you threatened them, you put them in the corner, you sent them to their room, they talk back to you, you slap them across the face, like that was my programming. And so, um, anyways,
You're being triggered, yeah.
yeah. this Utactics Faster EFT has been such a gift for my parenting because I can show up differently for my kids now because everyone's like, oh, you don't hit them. Just don't hit them. I tried that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work to just not hit them. But when you find Utactics Faster EFT, you go change your memories. Go change, mom smacking you across the face or
Right.
dad spanking you with a belt. You you're able, it just changes the whole
Mhm.
chemistry of the brain, and you explain it far better than I do, but you're able to hold those moments where your kids are completely melting down and you're maybe the old you would react by like squatting their butt and now you're just like sitting with it, like, that's the incredible part.
Yeah, so basically, and I know that experience because I too, because I had no skills either. I passed down my parenting skills that I received, and we pass it down. But what you're doing is you don't like it, and now you're changing your references. Now, guys, here's the important thing I tell everybody, and I'll tell you: if you want to be a better parent, change the parents inside your head and what they did to you. Because remember, memories are just operating skills. These are patterns to operate your life from. That's why, the teacher go on the chalkboard and do a math equation, and now you can do math equations. Right? You learn by what you witness, and you mimic and mirror that. So again, you're just doing what you were emotionally conditioned, doing what you experienced. And so our brain just kicks in that survival program, and you're going to mimic your trainers. but you don't
Yes.
like it, so you got to change it. Yeah, and you can catch yourself now. Before,
Yeah, I catch myself.
yeah,
Like when my kids are like driving me crazy and I can feel that irritation building, I'm just like tapping. Nope. We're not going there, you know. And when I do mess up, because I am human, you know,
mm-hmm.
and I haven't found all the programs, I'm still working on it. Like if I, you know, like I snatch their arm. I haven't hit my kids in a long time, but you know, if I snatch their arm and I feel like it was like maybe, you know, too aggressive, I'll go
Mm-hmm.
back to the point of when I like that intensity of to snatch them and clean it from there.
Right,
Clean it up
right,
like, you know.
right.
So,
So you're reprogramming your programs.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
very good. I mean, you know, having kids, and you got four of them, right?
Yes.
That's a little bit of chaos.
Just a little at
A little
times.
bit of chaos. And also remember, you came from a chaotic world.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're mirroring it. So as you clean up, the chaos will get less.
Yes. And that's my experience. Like it's incredible to just the 360 that's happened in my life since doing this. And the mom I am today versus the mom I was
Mhm.
even 2 years ago.
Yeah. And if you look at, I mean, those are on the list to the audio, you can't look at her, but she looks very healthy. You have a healthy look. Now, I remember when we first started, you didn't look so healthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's another thing I mean I could talk on too and share. Um, I had this, like, I always thought I was empathetic. Like, oh, when people are telling me stories or when I'm telling my own story, my own experience, I'm crying. Like, I just thought I was a crier. I'm like, I just cry. I feel all this stuff. You know, I'm a filler. No. When you start cleaning up your memories and updating and cleaning up your own BS, my ability to cry, I mean, I still cry when I get passionate about something like I just did, you know, like
Mhm.
just the changes in me will, you know,
Yeah.
instill that emotion, but I'm not going around crying like I used to. Like, and
Mhm.
that to me has been huge. I'm like, I'm not a crier. I just had a lot of shit in there that needed to be cleaned up.
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, it's a coping skill. You know, when you're unhappy, it's easy to be unhappy. When you have references that drag you down, it's easy to be dragged down. Now you've been cleaning up, you've been working on yourself, you've been improving the quality of your brain, and therefore your quality of behavior reflects that. And so it's super important to be have a skill. Now, what I teach guys is not just a technique. It's a way of life. It's a way of processing the world. It's a way of handling stuff inside you. If you have a skill and you're upset now, China will walk away. She'll work on herself, release the emotions, get mental clarity, and act differently. You know, it works, and it's oftentimes immediate or close to immediate. You diffuse the emotional situation inside yourself, and then you handle things in a more healthier, productive way. So this system is how to live a normal, healthy life by being emotionally intelligent. This is an emotional intelligence skill, emotional regulation. You know, have you seen your kids change any? You notice any difference in your kids now versus back when you were hadn't worked on yourself?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, with my older ones, because they got a different version of my husband and I. I even have seen my husband change. Like me leading our life, you know, being the mom and him just kind of seeing me, how I parent the children, it's inspired him to change, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so it's not just my kids, it showed up all over in our
yeah,
lives.
yeah. And earlier you said your father, who gave you a lot of issues, emotional hurts, and there's something she said is really important. My father's my number one healer. Now, how does that work? Remember, as I said at the beginning, you'll capture memories of what your father did, how he treated you, and it goes inside you. And so, by her working on her memories of what dad did, it changes her relationship with her father, even if he's not alive. The relationship will change. This relationship will impact her husband because her attitude had shifted and changed. It'll impact your children because her attitude and emotions have shifted. It has a ripple effect. And like one of the ladies, or her mother was older, and she said, I love her, but I can't stand the bitch, you know? I said, you need to work on that because she's your mother and how you represent her is about you. So she's working on herself, changing, adjusting memories and cleaning this stuff up. And then she says, it's the weirdest thing. My mother's acting like she had sessions. She's changed, you know? And it's because she changed. And our attitude and our emotional dynamics impact our environment. And so this is a massive ripple effect in your world. So,
Have you noticed people in your life leaving? I know it sounds different because, now that you're emotionally intelligent, are there some people that have just disappeared?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes. There has, and sometimes that'll trigger you and those rejection programs will come up and you just
mhm.
clean them up.
Yep.
It's not you. And then
Yes.
sometimes, I've even been like, I want to get rid of this certain person in my life. I'm going to tap on them. And then they
Yep.
just don't. Then they
Yeah,
just
and
don't
another
show
thing
up.
too, you'll attract healthier people in your life too.
Yeah.
Higher quality people. Like you used to hang around the gripers and complainers or the angry people. They just don't seem to feel right. I'm just not interested.
Hmm.
You make better decisions.
Hmm.
So, very good. So if
Yeah.
you're, I know earlier today, we talked, and if you were to talk to the mothers or the wives, what would you tell them? Well, if you were to give them any advice, what would you tell
I would tell them to look into your systems and invest in themselves.
them? Right.
Learn about Utactics Faster EFT, how it works, how to change and update your memories, how to feel safe within your own body, because that's mostly what it is. So many of us are walking around in this level of stress that's like up here, right? And if you have, childhood trauma or come from an environment that wasn't very healthy, I mean, your stress is up here. And so you're walking around with this stress all day long, and it's affecting your husband, it's affecting your children, you're taking it out on them. And so invest in yourself. Utaptics Fast is the greatest tool. And I don't just say that to say it. Like, it's changed my life because I invested in myself. I've updated my memories. I've rewritten them. I'm a better mom. I'm a calmer mom. And so invest in yourself. If you're even one bit curious about this modality, go to the website, skillstochange.com, and invest in yourself. It'll be the
Mhm.
greatest thing you ever do.
Thank you. Yeah, well, it's definitely true. And you shared a story earlier about your youngest one, your 5 year.
Mhm.
Share that because I think it's very profound.
Okay. So my 5-year-old, my dad, he um likes to tease. And she will tell him, like, don't tease me. This is my house. You can leave. And so she had a friend over and they were playing. And I'm listening in on them and I could hear the friend, making fun of her doll. And I can hear my daughter say, please don't do that. And she asked her twice. And then she says, her friend's name, this is my house and you are visiting. If you cannot be nice, you can leave. And I was just like, wow, because she's 5. Like, that brings so much joy to me because she's 5 years old and she knows that her voice matters. She
Mhm.
knows she's brave enough to be like, hey, to an adult, I don't like that. Don't do that. This is my house. This is my safe space. And if you don't want to respect that I've told you not to do this, you can leave. Like,
Yeah.
5 years old, like, that's incredible.
Yeah. Have you tapped on your kids? Have you worked on your kids?
I just started tapping on them there for a little while. I think I was just focusing on me. Like, let's get mom healthy to where she can, you know,
I agree.
tap
Yeah.
on. Yeah, and so I just started tapping on my kids.
Very good. Good job. I'm so happy that you shared this. I know that I do remember working on you. I don't have any idea what we worked on because I worked with so many. But
Yeah.
I could see you change just by watching you from afar.
Hmm.
And I'm very proud of you. And you're young. How old are you?
I'm 34.
34 years old. God. Some of you guys are listening. If you would have started at 34, your children would have grew up in a different way. Your health would be different today. Your decision would be different. So many things would be different. And I really believe that if we could get your children watching you tap on yourself, being a good model of personal change and transformation, and show them this is how you change how the bad feelings are. They will grow up emotionally intelligent. They will make wiser decisions. They won't allow people to hurt them or harm them. So that's really good. Really, really good. So thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you, Robert, for sharing this
Thank,
with the world.
thank, very good. That's exciting. And we are
It is.
changing. We are changing the world.
Hmm.
All right. You got any
Very
questions? You got any questions there, Crystal?
Yes, I do. I have a viral question. This is a really good one that people want to know.
Yeah.
You ready
I'm
for it?
scared.
Are you ready? All right. Can a family secret actually make you sick?
That is absolutely yes.
Mhm.
Because if you think about how does a family secret, let's say, for example, and I work with everything you could ever imagine. Even in the early days, I'd use Louise Hay's book, Heal Your Body. And she said something in her book, basically says, I've had a lot of reproductive illnesses and issues. And she said, I believe the contributing factor was the sexual abuse from my stepfather. Hashimoto's disease, lupus, a lot of these, when I work with these individuals, they've had really horrific bad memories, being belittled, silenced, ignored, rejected, blamed, and guilted. It plays a role in our health. A lot of our health issues, as a matter of fact, 75 to 90% of all doctors' visits are stress and emotional complaints. And if you can just think about it logically, you're going through a divorce, you get sick, you're very sickly, or your parent dies, your dog dies, you gain a lot of weight, it affects you physically because you have no coping skills. China and me and Crystal, I tap on myself. I went through a really horrific experience, something I would never in a million years believe. So the things that were said and done that were harming and vengeful, I just tapped all the way through it. People go through horrific divorces or deaths and they end up getting cancer. You have to be emotionally intelligent. Yes, these events happen. And I've worked with so many people who had toxic emotional environments and they're extremely toxic to the world. Sound, sensitivity, chemicals, all kinds of stuff because their toxicity in the environment and they replicate it in their mind and they take it everywhere. So I've seen this. It's everywhere. It's everywhere because this is how the brain and the body works.
Right. Well, Robert, any closing thoughts, or do you want me to ask more questions?
Well, give me one more, a tough
All
one.
right. Let's see if I have a tough one. I guess maybe you can tell a little bit. Can you tell another story or another experience so that people can relate to what family trauma looks like or generational cycles, like the skeletons in the closet, the big elephant in the room,
All
and
right.
people sweeping things under the rug? If you can talk a little bit more about that, because you have worked with so many different people.
Oh, yeah. Well, I would probably say the biggest thing about skeletons in the closet shows up in three basic ways. I see really bad addictions, drug addictions, food addictions, all kinds of addictions, gambling addiction, sex addiction, spending addictions plays a major role. I see this everywhere. And, when I work with drug addicts, every one of them has something. Every one of them. There was, one lady, she spent $500,000, a specialized therapist who went through incestuous trauma. She said, I didn't feel any better.
Oof.
I lost $5,000, $500,000. And I did a presentation and I was invited to give a presentation. And she saw me on YouTube And she said, I don't like that guy. She just didn't have good taste at that point, right? Because I'm probably because I'm from Oklahoma. Maybe I sound like somebody from her hometown. And so, but I was there, and she goes, "What is that guy doing here?" And so I said, "I'd like to somebody would like to volunteer. You can pick the worst memory of your life. You don't have to share me anything, and I will help you change that memory." So about 35, 40 minutes, I changed this memory for her. And from that point forward, it never bothered her. As a matter of fact, it moved her towards healing the rest of the memories. $500,000 didn't even change a memory. A free presentation changed that memory. And of course, life can change. And another one is sexual issues, physical illnesses. I mean, the worst possible stuff you could ever imagine. It's low self-esteem. I hate myself. I hate my body. I hate my life. This it's massive. There's so many different things. It's it's just the inability to deal with stuff. So these closet issues repeat. Like if you were, I've seen this so many times. Like a child who is abused by a brother or uncle or grandfather. She grows up and she has children, and she will drop her children off at the same place and the same person who abused her. Insane. Or they will date and marry someone who looks like and acts like the previous one. Now it's remember, it's just programming, mental programming, staying connected to my environment that I'm familiar with. So these are really bizarre things, and it's not that they do it intentionally. It's so unconscious,
Yes.
so unconscious
Yes. And
because
when
it's
they start updating the memories, then it starts changing and they start
oh
making
yeah,
different choices.
yeah.
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 I recently, I donate my time with this person who's a drug addict. She's has Suboxone. And what
Is that
drove her,
is that
huh?
prescription?
That's a prescription for a heroin
Okay.
addict or
Oh,
opioids.
okay. Got
And
it.
so, there's a reason why people use. It's not the drug itself. Most people are going to point out it's the cake and cookies. They're going to point out it's the cigarettes. They're going to point out it's the drugs. It's not. It's what drives them to use. And she had a lot of hurt. She had a lot of pain, a lot of rejection, a lot of blame, a lot of loneliness. And that was driving it. And so we started cleaning it up, and I said, we need to do the next one, which I could see it was like a monster, which is a trauma. And that is going through withdrawals was hell. So she would rather stay on than to get off because it's horrible, really horrible. So then clean this up. So and I will say this, what you run from and what you're afraid of is where you need to go to set you free. Now, I know it's scary, especially if you're going to talk about it, but we don't talk about it. We change it. And that's
Right.
what I do.
Hmm.
Hey, China.
Could you just share more if someone was say, "Oh, I don't want to go back there, I don't want to bring that stuff up," because a lot of
Yeah.
people are afraid to relive all that
Yeah.
terrible stuff, especially if they've gone through really extreme things.
Yeah.
What would you
Yeah.
say to them?
Well, I said we can address it without going there. We slowly dissipate from a distance. But see, what we're doing, it's almost like joining the military. You go through boot camp. You clean up the big stuff. When it's all said and done, you know this personally, China. You remember some of the big ones? It was like scary as
Oh yeah,
hell. And then
yeah,
when we're all done, what is it now?
yeah.
Nothing. Yeah. So remember, fear is what's going to keep you stuck. Fear attracts it. Fear keeps it recycled. And I know, I understand. It is scary. But I will tell you this, we'll go to your worst memory, and when we're done, you can't make it bother you. You know what happened? And you go, whoop-de-doo-dah. I'm out of here. But yeah, normal. Yeah.
Thank you, Robert.
I think you.
So if you've been carrying a secret, maybe it's skeletons in the closet of some sort, maybe nobody knows about it, and it is wearing you down, maybe your body down, maybe you can feel it in your relationships, your confidence, and you're paying the price. Well, it's time to stop carrying it alone. Book a free strategy call if you're unsure what to do, or go ahead and book a session with Robert and clean up the issue immediately. That is the go-to. So if you know that there is a major issue and you need help right now, get on Robert's calendar, book a one-on-one session with him. If you're not sure what to do, go ahead and book a strategy call with me, and we will help you to get on the right path.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you guys for listening to this. I know this is a pretty big, scary topic, dealing with your inner world, but the truth is, it's just memories. I know it seems real, but they're just memories. Memories are what used to be, and your mind makes it seem real, but they're not. And you know that logically. Once you set yourself free from these events, you'll feel better, you'll act better, you'll attract more, you'll get more. Life will be more abundant, and you'll feel more good feelings. And that's what you want, is a better quality of life. So I always say, learn to love yourself and like yourself from within yourself, because what you hold up here, you share with others. It drives your bus, even when you don't want to go there. When it's clean, you get to go where you want to go, create the life you want. And I'm here to help you.
That's right. So thank you for joining us on another episode of the Robert Jean Experience. You will find all the links that you need in the show notes for Robert's free course, a strategy call, or a one-on-one session with Robert. And if you're looking for support and clarity on what to do next, you will find that in the show notes.
Peace.
Right. Peace.
That was good, wasn't it?
Yes. It's
Very
very good.
exciting. It's really good to have like China, who really experienced it and share her stories, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. Everyone
Yeah.
has a different experience, but you hear the transformation. It's powerful.
Yeah, and she didn't come from a boring life. That's really nice, you know?
Nope, nope, no boring here.
Which means you get a lot more stuff to clean up, you know? But
Yeah.
you also build your power and conquer a lot of stuff. So
I know I wanted to like share more things because there's just so much, so much that has changed in my life.
like
So
what? Like what?
just the confidence, like my confidence level in like just feeling good about myself has changed so much.
Well, you think about it logically, before you started this, you had no power. You had no control. You just suffered.
Yeah.
Now your confidence level says, if it comes my way, I know what to do. I can handle it. I can conquer and clean it up. That's where your confidence is being built from.
Mm-hmm.
Without a skill, without a talent, you'll still be a victim of the world.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, very good. All right. I think we did great.
Yeah, me too.
All
Thank you guys.
right, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Ciao.
Bye.